Hello there. Welcome to another Lore with Ben. This is Aldo. Now, Aldo does not know a massive amount about Warhammer 40k, and luckily, I know bits and pieces. So, in this episode, we are going to be talking about the Primarchs. Now, if you are getting into Warhammer 40k, you've probably heard that word being thrown around. So, in this episode, we're going to go through who they are, why they matter, and we're going to try to give a brief explanation about all of them. Now, not going to go into too much depth because, honestly, each of them are probably like an episode each. There's so much depth. Some of them have a lot more lore to them than others, but in this one, we're going to go through them all. But let's start at the start. I've got my notes right here. So why are the Primarchs important? If you are looking at the 40k universe, Space Marines are like the poster boys, right? Everyone's kind of seen them. Everyone knows what they are. They're seen as like demigods. They're like above man. The Primarchs are actual demigods. They are capable of things that are so far beyond our comprehension. It is insane. Now, if you're wanting to catch up on the entire overview of the 40k universe, please go back and watch our last video because that kind of gives a nice overarching bridge from start to current lore. But during that video, we talked about how the Emperor created these Primarchs, and they were his generals to help him reconquer the galaxy. And that is, in a nutshell, what the Primarchs are. They are just his generals that he created from his own genetics, and then a mix of another person's genetics. But again, we're going to keep it surface level here, in an attempt to kind of look. If he's only one man at the end of the day, the Primarchs are his way of spreading his influence and his reach to all the galaxy, so kind of, dividing down. Now, a really cool way of thinking about this, Aldo, is think of the Emperor as like a master craftsman, okay? The Primarchs are custom tools. The Space Marines are then mass-produced versions of those tools, okay? So, you've got the Emperor at the top. He's the king, the daddy, Big E. That's what a lot of people refer to him as, the Big Emperor. He has these then Primarchs, and then from those Primarchs, that's where they got the genetic kind of construct to make Space Marines. So each Primarch has a Space Marine chapter associated with it. Those Space Marines have been taken from the genetic stock of those Primarchs. All clear so far?
Yeah.
What is your, just out of curiosity, what is your understanding of the Primarchs? Like, what, from your information, like, what have you gathered? Obviously, you and I have had some conversations, but...
Yeah, demigods, basically, like, sort of like super powered, or like I think of like, kind of mutants within the X-Men, that kind of thing. So like you got regular people, and then you got these like beings who are like crazy. And then obviously now with what you just said, now I think of it more like you've got like the Space Marines who are kind of like the mutants, and then like these Primarchs are essentially like Omega level mutants. So these guys are like top of the bunch.
Like Iceman and Professor
Yeah.
X and all the X level. Yeah, because like obviously mutants are not all created equal in the X Men universe. There's some that are one's a toad, and then one
Yeah.
can summon lightning and is
Right.
a god, kind of pretty much Storm. Yeah. So yeah, it's similar to that. There's definitely a power level to these. The Primarchs take that to the next level.
Next level. Okay.
Okay, so the Primarch basically created these, or sorry, the Primarchs were created by the Emperor.
Wait, and
Saying,
then there was one thing. So essentially, each Primarch has like their own clan, basically, because like their Space Marines are made from that Primarch stuff.
exactly. So they've got their
Okay.
own. They were called legions back in the day because they were legion. They were hundreds of thousands of them.
Okay.
But in the current setting, they've been broken down into chapters because the Horus Heresy happened, and basically, to give it a very, very simple overview, they realized that having legions of Space Marines, thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon Space Marines, all aligned to one person, meant that if that one person turned, which, spoiler alert, they did, you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of Space Marines, whereas they broke them down into chapters so that no person in the galaxy would have that much control over
Got
that
it.
many Space
Okay.
Marines. So that's why they're kind of now referred to as Legion in Horus Heresy, chapters in the current 40k universe.
Cool.
So the Emperor created these Primarchs with the goal of using them to spread his influence across the galaxy, reclaim the galaxy in the name of man. He created them using a lot of like science. So they were created like, imagine like a big room with 20 of these like birthing pods. Now the Emperor, I think, the lore is that he's maybe tried to create sons in the past, but didn't quite work. So he thought, you know what? I'm going to take this to the next level. Instead of just having the mastery of genetics, I'm going to go to the warp gods. So we talked about the chaos gods in the last episode. He went to the chaos gods and said, look, I would like some of the powers to instill into my sons. And there's this, we don't know about the deal, but essentially he had his fingers crossed the entire time. So the chaos gods give him all this power. And he was like, yeah, psych. And then he left and took this power they gave him. Yeah, he's such a dick. It's amazing. So he basically infused the best genetic like science available. Then he pulled warp powers into them to that like leveled them up even further. And the chaos gods, understandably, were a bit pissed off at the fact that he reneged on their deal. So while these infant space marines, or sorry, their infant Primarchs were in their birthing tubes, Chaos got in. Now, again, kind of caveat here, side note. It was believed that the Chaos Gods were the reason why these Primarchs were then scattered all over the universe. Because the Chaos Gods were like, he's just created 20 beings that are capable of, well, basically anything. They have so much power that all combined. Yeah, we don't want that, so we're going to just shoot them into the warp. And essentially, when you fire into the warp, you exit at any point. You could be on a planet 100,000 light years away. You could land if you're on Earth, you could land in Africa.
Right.
It doesn't matter. They just fired them into the warp. But the recent lore updated that to being one of the people that helped the Emperor create these Primarchs she basically kind of was like, oh, I maybe made a mistake. He should not have this much power. So she was actually the one who scouted the Primarchs. So, room full of 20 Primarchs. Imagine all these birthing tubes, all these infant children in these tubes, and they get sucked into the warp and shot over the entire galaxy. So, as you can imagine, that somewhat delayed the Emperor's plans because he was originally going to go out, conquer the galaxy, and he's like, okay, they've all kind of gone now. And his next plan was to go out and find them all again. Now, it did take him a while to do that, again, for unknown reasons. It did take him a little bit of time, but the scattering was... Now, people are kind of unsure about this. I have my own opinion on it. A lot of people say, oh, the Emperor planned this because he wanted to see what these children, these Primarchs, would do, being raised on different cultures and different planets. It's kind of like nature versus nurture.
I see.
So they were scattered all over the place. Again, some landed very, very, very far away, distance-wise, and some landed very, very close. And that obviously depended, how quickly he discovered them. That was kind of part of it. But yeah, a lot of people think like, oh yeah, no, he planned this. It was all a big part of his plan that this Primarch was going to land on this planet and he would learn from this culture and that'd be great and then he would bring this. But when you really look at it, I don't think the Emperor planned this at all because it really slowed down the entire process of what he was trying to do, and it really just became a pain in the ass because he's now having to search a needle in a haystack, really, because no one's going to go, oh yeah, we've got a Primarch, because no one knew what they were. So these Primarchs launched all over the galaxy, landed on a planet, and then they grew up on whatever planet they landed on. Now that obviously changed their upbringing significantly. That also, depending on where they landed. So, for example, I'll give you a good example. Rabute Gilliman, he is the Primarch of the Ultramarines. We'll get to him later on when we're going through sequentially there and them, and I'll give you kind of a little bit of a characteristic trait that they have. He landed on a very civilized world called Ultramar, and he was, I believe, the only Primarch that grew up with a mother and father. And he grew up in the higher echelons of this society within Ultramar. So he was kind of like, and it was very like Romanesque. A lot of their pageantry is like Roman. You would recognize it. So he had a pretty good upbringing. Again, we can talk about each of these Primarchs in detail, but I want to wait until the end and we can decide which way we go. Whether you want to learn about the heretics or the loyalist Primarchs, but we'll get to that later on. Then you've got someone like Angron. Angron, not so lucky. Angron landed on a planet and immediately became enslaved by the people on the planet and ended up fighting in gladiatorial arenas and really just a not a great go of it. So that really did have a sway on what way they viewed the Emperor and whether they fell, in line with chaos or just traitor. That's a better way of looking at it. Rather than thinking, oh, chaos and loyal, it's, hey, we're not a big fan of you. It's not that chaos got them. It's just like, you know what? We're
Yeah.
not particularly happy with you individually.
Okay.
So we're going to go with each of them in numerical order. Okay.
Okay.
The first Primarch. Now, the first Primarch is known as kind of the template for all the other Primarchs, and his name is Lionel Johnson. Badass name. Now, his
Yeah, it is.
legion is the Dark Angels. Lionel Johnson is described as he looks like this regal knight, exactly what you'd imagine as like a Templar knight, very, very regal, blonde, long hair, just like looks incredibly
Okay.
regal. But he is savage in nature. Like has this gentlemanly outward look, but scratch under the surface, he is a beast incarnate. He is terrifying. He is one of the Primarchs that, again, I'll give you a little bit of flavor on each of them just from what I know. So there'll be
Yeah.
a loose structure here, but I'm going to fill in some of it. He is one of the Primarchs that all the other Primarchs, in the lore, when they're talking about which Primarchs could beat the other Primarchs, because that's frequently talked about, the Lion is one of the Primarchs that all the other Primarchs are like, yeah, unless there's something that's giving me a significant advantage over him, I'm not beating him physically. He is
Okay.
one of the most like highly decorated martial. You do not want to fuck with Lionel Johnson. Basically,
Got
he
it.
will
Yeah.
mess you up. So his whole thing is like the vibe of them is knightly and secretive. They're very, very secretive in terms of their entire like the Dark Angels are known as kind of they have these things called the inner circle, secrets upon secrets upon secrets, and they are yeah. If you piss one off, they will probably not ever forget it. They are, and I'm going to give you their status as well in terms of whether they're loyal or whether they're traitor. So Lion
Okay.
is loyal, but there's slight. It's not like full loyalty. So if he came back, he actually is back in the current setting. He's one of the two loyalist Primarchs that has returned from supposed death or disappearance. And yeah, he's loyal to the Emperor, but there's some complications there. Okay.
Okay.
Number two, redacted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Redacted.
So nobody knows who this Primarch is. No one knows his name, and that was deliberately done on purpose. So the Imperium, so the men, deleted all reference of this Primarch entirely. Now, as a kind of side note to this is one of the reasons why Horus from the Horus Heresy, it's one of the things that kind of gave him a little bit of mistrust with the Emperor because he thought, well, if you can delete one of our brothers, and I
Right.
can't even say his name. There's a bit in the book, I love this. So, Malkador is the Emperor's right hand man. Okay,
Okay.
imagine this. He's an old man. He's like kind of their best friends. The Emperor and him are best friends. Malkador is an extremely powerful character, and there's a bit in one of the books where Horus tries to say this Primarch's name. Now, it might be him or it might be the other Primarch that's missing, but he tries to say his name, and Malkador freezes him in place and shuts his throat just by. Now, Malkador's a tiny, just a huge,
Darth
just
Vader
an old man.
style.
Yeah, just, and Horus is basically just crippled in the spot just because he went to mention his name.
Wow. Okay.
And it's a pretty cool scene, but shows you how what of a Giga Chad flipping Malkador is, but also how seriously they take this. That I think in that scene you see that they describe the fact that they're taking some of the statues down of this Primarch. And again,
Okay.
nobody knows who they are. I don't think we'll ever find out. We might get mentions, but I don't think we'll ever truly find out who this Primarch is because it's kind of GW's or Games Workshop's like a little bit of wiggle room. I think it's also to have that little bit of creative freedom if you're creating your own chapter in the tabletop that you can go, oh, this is a chapter that belonged to the missing Primarch.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
I like
And
it.
and is the order they were made in a particular specific
I
order
think
or
it's the order they were made in, but I think it's just literally in this back room I was telling you about, this like
right?
old
Number one, number two, number three, number four, number five, number six. Okay,
yeah,
got
it's
it.
not the order they were found in. The order they were found in is quite different.
Right.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just numerical. Just think like Roman numerals, one,
Got
two.
it. Okay. Perfect.
Next up is Fulgrim. Now, Fulgrim he is the leader of the Emperor's Children. Okay, his whole vibe is perfection, pride, and excess. He was obsessed with being the best. Now, again, in terms, this is where it gets kind of funny because there's a bit of a joke within the 40k community where they're just trying to find different ways of saying that each of them are really good at fighting. So one of them's got incredible martial prowess. One of them's a blade master. The other one's a ferocious fighter. Kind of all the same thing. They're all really good at things.
And
Some of them
fighting.
less
Yeah.
so, but Fulgrim is he is a perfection. Gorgeous. Like again, all the Primarchs are, you know, beautiful looking beings. They're like look like they're. It's almost hard to look at them. They're that perfect. So imagine like
Okay.
all like Derek Zoolanders and yeah, pretty much Hansel. All of them like they're all like that.
That's a hilarious thing to picture.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah. So Fulgrim, he grew up on a planet similar to. I suppose if we go back to Lionel Johnson, he grew up on a planet that was quite feral in nature. It's called a death world. So his growing up was pretty tumultuous. Not great upbringing, but he struggled through. Fulgrim grew up on a planet where he quickly rose to actually help. Like Fulgrim was one of the kind of when you look into Fulgrim's background, it's quite tragic. A lot of them are quite tragic in their downfall. But his whole thing, his flaw was his need to be perfect, his need to be recognized for being the best. He is currently a traitor, so he's not one of the good guys, and he is
Okay.
actually one of the models that is available in the lore. He is currently back, and his model is just horrendous looking. He's like a big snake demon with four arms.
What's his chapter or faction's name?
The Emperor's Children. So he was actually so exonerated that the Emperor actually renamed his legion to the Emperor's Children. Now to
Wow.
rewind a little bit here. So as the Emperor was going out to search for the Primarchs, he had their legions with him. Now these Space Marines that he created from the fragments of their genetic components that were left over when they were all disappeared
Okay.
made for some volatile like Space Marines, so they weren't fully complete. And once they returned and were in the presence of their Primarch, it kind of like everything slotted together. So
Oh, okay.
reigniting or reuniting. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. With a Primarch, like boosts the Legion's capacities by 10 times. Okay.
Okay.
Number four, Perturabo. Now his Legion were the Iron Warriors. Perturabo he was a bit of a siege genius. So
Sorry. Sorry. Say that again. What was it?
Perturabo,
Perturabo.
or Perty, people like to call him Perty. He was honestly just not a nice person, if you could call him that. He was extremely bitter. He thought that he was the smartest. His whole thing was building siege weapons, and it was like that was his thing, like siegecraft. And he's kind of like he had like the middle child syndrome. You know, me as a middle child, I know exactly what that's like. You feel underappreciated, overlooked, and but he carried that chip on his shoulder throughout. Okay, he was oftentimes kind of sent to do a lot of the grunt work, and
Okay.
he felt like he deserved more than that. So again, not a really nice person, but he just never got over that fact. His status is traitor. Now in the 40k universe, currently not represented as a model, but he is out there somewhere.
And so we don't know who his Space Marines are.
Oh, sorry, they're the Iron Warriors.
The Iron Warriors. Okay.
Yeah.
So do we know all of the Space Marines, but not all of the Primarchs? Like, are there 20 Space Marine factions or whatever?
There are, yes, but we don't know the missing Primarch's legions. So
Okay,
they were
okay.
pretty much gone. Now there is a bit of a rumor that when the two Primarchs that disappeared, suddenly Rabute Gilliman, the Ultramarines, tripled in size. So, make of that what you will. Basically, I think they were
Interesting.
absorbed into the Ultramarines, and
Yeah.
that's kind of why they're seen as kind of the poster boy of.
Okay.
Do you know the blue armor, like the blue armor of Space Marine? The kind
Yeah,
of
that's the Ultramarine. Yeah.
correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Number five is Jagatai Khan. Now, Jagatai Khan's Legion are the White Scars. Okay, he is kind of like a Genghis Khan type character. He is all about freedom. He's often depicted with eagles and stuff. He's a very um, he's all about speed. A lot of his legion like to ride bikes, like these big heavy bikes. That's the kind of how they're seen. They're fast attack. They're in like a scalpel. They're in out before you even know what's going on. And yeah, he loves to roam. He doesn't like being trapped down and pinned down. And they say basically the Primarchs were created with a bunch of characteristics from the Emperor, and each of them kind of had their own flavor of personality. Okay.
Okay.
His status is loyal, so he is loyal to the Emperor. Okay. Next up, the Sixth Legion, or the Sixth Primarch, is Leman Russ. Leman Russ, his legion is called the Space Wolves. They have fast become one of my favorite factions in Warhammer 40k. Now, he is kind of the he's kind of the opposite of the Lion in the sense that on the outside, on the external, he looks like a ferocious warrior. Think of like a Viking, like braids, like got long canines. He looks extremely savage, but on the inside, he's actually quite chivalrous to a certain degree. He's also been known as the Executioner.
Okay.
So he was the legion or the Primarch that the Emperor would send to a planet to make an example of them, to kind of bring them to heel. But the story is that if you send the Space Wolves, you're going to get pulled in line. If you send the Dark Angels and the Lion, no one's ever going to hear of you ever again.
Okay.
So the Lion is the delete button, and Lehman Russ is kind of the refresh button. That's maybe a good way of looking at it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Again, he is loyal, so he is one of the loyal sons to the Emperor.
Okay.
Number seven, Rogaldorn. Okay, Rogaldorn is the Primarch of the Imperial Fists. He is again almost like a counterpart to Perturabo. He's all about fortification, an unwavering willpower. Like he is impossible to break. A fun story that again I'll tell you little bits and pieces that I know a little bit about
Yeah.
them. He was trapped in a desert, so whenever the Emperor went up to fight Horus at the kind of culmination of the Horus Heresy, Rogaldorn was one of the Primarchs that was with the Emperor. And when they went to teleport up to the Vengeful Spirit, which is where the ship that Horus was on, where he was kind of goading the Emperor to come and fight him, Rogaldorn was present. But Rogaldorn did not land on the Vengeful Spirit. In fact, he ended up landing in essentially a desert where he was stuck for hundreds of years, potentially, with
Oh
Khorne,
my
so
God.
the god of rage, the god of blood, constantly trying to tempt Rogaldorn. It got to the point where Rogel had to just say his own name out loud to remind himself of who he was. And he was just stuck in this. It's a horrible depiction. Like it is just horrible, but it shows you the indomitable will of Rogaldorn. He's not exactly known as the most charismatic. In fact, a lot of the other Primarchs consider him quite dull because he's about that business, and that's about it. He's not there for short small talk. He's not very personable. He's not going to be the one that pats you in the back after a battle. He's maybe you might get a look in your direction if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Whereas going back, Lehman Russ is the type one that would drink with his warriors and congratulate them. So again, they're all different personalities.
Yeah.
Again, his actual job in the Horus Heresy was to fortify Terra or Earth against Horus and all the other traitors. So it was his job to create the best defenses possible to, stop Horus, and he did a pretty damn good job of it. To be fair, again, he is one of the loyal Primarchs.
Okay.
Next up, number eight, You've got Conrad Kurz. I think that's an awesome name. I think a lot of them.
Conrad Curse.
Yeah, Kurz. Yeah, Curze. No, he is the lead. His legion are the Night Lords. Now the Night Lords are I think Batman. Okay,
Nice.
but imagine if Batman. You know the way Batman's whole thing is fear. Like if he wants people to be so scared about committing a crime that they just don't do it.
Yeah.
But imagine if Batman, instead of just like scaring people and being like "boo," he flayed them alive and then hung their corpses out in front of everyone. That's Conrad Kurz. He was not a particularly nice person at all. His whole thing was terror. Like he would break your will and pull everyone in line. So basically, imagine these Primarchs going out. As I was saying, the original intention of all these was to go out to the galaxies and reclaim these
Right.
realms. The way he would do it would be, yeah, I'm going to go after all the people who are committing crimes. I'm going to skin them alive, and then I'm going to hang their corpses up in the middle of your villages so that
My
everyone's
God.
like, okay, don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
Yep, cool, Emperor. Yep, sweet, cool. Pretty dark character. His whole thing was
Medieval Batman, basically.
pretty much, yeah, who just had a little inclination to shuck people out of their skin. Yeah, pretty gross.
Yeah.
So his whole thing was like, but he did it to criminals. He wouldn't just do it to random people. It was always he thought it was like justice. It was
Okay.
justice, like again. So that's where the kind of Batman-y vibes come in. But yeah, Batman, if he just had a really, really, really bad day,
Yeah.
that's Conrad.
Okay.
Yeah, he is a traitor.
I figured.
Yeah, he's not one of the guys that is exactly loyal to the Emperor. Next up, you can see him over my shoulder. In fact, I'm going to grab him right now. This is Sanguinius.
Ah, okay. You've told me about Sanguinius.
Yeah, Sanguinius is the Primarch of the Blood Angels. Probably one of the most arguably you've probably heard of them. Are there any of these legions you've heard of, by the way?
The Blood Angels, yes. The
Yep.
Space Wolves, just because you had shown me like the
Models I painted.
the models, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the other ones, I don't think so. No,
Mm.
other than the Ultramarines, yeah.
Yeah. So again, some legions get a little bit more time in the sun than others. Arguably speaking, yeah, the Blood Angels are probably one of the most popular factions now. Sanguinius, he's kind of seen as a bit of a Mary Sue in the sense that he can do nothing wrong. He's great at everything. All the other Primarchs love him.
Yeah.
He's respected by them. If he's not loved by the other Primarchs, he's massively respected by all the Primarchs. He has wings, which again is another thing that
Kind of crazy.
yeah. So they figure that when the Chaos Gods were sending these pods all over the place, again the theory is that some of the warp magic that the Chaos Gods have maybe got into their birthing pods,
Yeah.
and that's why he has wings. But it's a cool thing in the books. He's known for if his brothers are arguing, he would just like flick his wings out, and everyone would kind of just go, "Okay, well,
Sorry.
sorry, yeah." Like
Sorry,
again,
Sanguinius.
yeah, sorry. So he's seen as like the angel, as you can imagine. He is very angelic.
Okay.
He is extremely loyal and an absolute just you do not want to fight Sanguinius in combat. In fact, you just don't want to be anywhere near him. Now, the cool thing about the Blood Angels, and again, we'll go into this in more detail, but I'll sprinkle this in. They are angelic in appearance, but they have this dark side to them, which is there's a story of his upbringing where Sanguinius, as he was growing up, so when the Primarchs landed on their planets, they were babies, okay, but within a year, they were the size of a full-grown man. 2 years, much bigger. 3 years, they're pretty much their full size and full capacity. And again, these are it's hard to comprehend the level above humanity that they are. It's kind of like I always imagine this, and again, this is just how I always think of things. Imagine being in a room full of toddlers, Okay? But imagine being the smartest human alive, then being in a room full of toddlers. That level of an intellectual gap.
Yeah.
Let's face it, what are you going to talk to toddlers about? What can you relate to them about? Like the Primarchs are so above humanity, it's almost impossible. That's the easiest way I could kind of
Okay.
describe that gap. It is ridiculous. So they are able to do things that we couldn't even comprehend. So
Okay.
Sanguinius was, yeah, he was one of the favored sons, and he was loyal, extremely loyal, as I said. And in the setting at the moment, he is dead.
Okay.
So a couple of these Primarchs are missing. Some of them are currently active in the setting, and then some of them are just straight up dead. And Sanguinius is one that is he is straight up dead, but we can talk about him in another episode.
Okay.
Next up, you have now this is number 10, I believe. Yes,
Yeah.
10. Ferrus Manus. Now, Ferrus Manus, his legion was the Iron Hands. So you've got the Iron Warriors, and you've got the Iron Hands. Now, the reason why they're called the Iron Hands is because when Ferrus Manus was on the planet he landed on, he ended up fighting this thing that they believe might have been of Necron origin. Like the Necron are the robots, Necron Theory, we talked about them before, living metal. And he fought this thing, this worm, I think it was, on the planet that was plaguing this planet. But when doing so, his arm became engulfed in this metal. So he's got like kind of like Colossus from X-Men, one of my favorite characters.
But you can still use it?
Oh yeah, completely, yeah. And he was actually an incredible like he was a blacksmith, kind of like Hephaestus from the Greek
Oh, that's
pantheon.
awesome.
Again, one not so friendly, but once you got close to him, he was loyal to a fault. Like he was one of the most uh, powerful Primarchs as well in terms of just raw strength.
Okay.
Yeah, I think him. Whenever the Emperor reunited with him, they had a fight, and they said that when their blows were landing, like mountains would literally shake
Shaking.
from their impacts. Yeah, it was incredible. He was loyal as well, so he saw Big E as like, yep, sweet dad, thanks. I'm going to fight for you again. Dead
Okay.
and dead at the hands of Fulgrim, who was seen as like him and Fulgrim, the Emperor's children, Primarch.
Yeah.
They were extremely close, and Fulgrim
Brutal.
ended up separating his head from his body. So
Wow.
he died. The 11th Primarch, redacted. No one knows who that one is either. Moving on. Next one up, 12th is Angron. Now again, Angron is, I think, one of the most. When you learn about his story, it is sad. Like it's what happened to him was really not fair. Now he's actually, fun fact, he was one of the only Primarchs that didn't take over the planet that he landed on. So all the other Primarchs, as far as I'm aware, kind of caveat there again, took over the planet. Angron was one of the ones that didn't. He was enslaved immediately, and he got these things were put in his head called the butcher's nails. So they look like dreadlocks, but they're metal like coils that are being dug into his brain. Yeah, we
So you
talked
showed
about.
me this guy. I
Yep.
remember now. Okay, 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 okay.
One of the most. I mean, all the Primarch models that are currently available in the 40k in the tabletop, the Primarchs are stunning. Angron has got so much presence. He's incredible. Um, his legion are the world eaters. Okay. His whole thing is just rage, tragedy, slavery. Like that's the kind of vibe of Angron. He is a very angry individual because the butcher's nails essentially removed his ability to feel pleasure or anything other than pain, unless he is fighting and causing other people pain. Okay, and as you can imagine, he's a traitor.
Of
Understand?
course. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason for him kind of falling, so some of the Primarchs were a little bit easier to convince over to the side of the traders. Some of them not so much. Angron didn't really need much prompting at all. In fact, it was quite easy for him to fall to chaos due to his upbringing and then what the Emperor did. But
Right.
again, I'll leave that as a little tidbit, and we can circle back to that in another video.
Okay.
Next up, the 13th Legion. You're going to hear this one, or the 13th Primarch, sorry. Rabute Gilliman.
Yes.
His
Okay.
Legion, the Ultramarines, his whole thing is, whilst a lot of the other Primarchs are known for like their martial prowess, now again, do not get me wrong, Gilliman, you don't want to fight him in single combat, but he's not known as like the most powerful one. His whole thing was empire building. He was a statesman. He was like, he took government. Like, Rabute will beat you in war. He may not beat you in a battle, but he will beat you in war because he is just
Tactics, planning,
like,
strategy, all this stuff. Yeah.
strategy, backup plans, contingency plans. He considers every single possibility and then plans for the possibilities. So you're not, you might, as I said, you might beat him in a battle, but you're not beating him in a war.
Okay.
I think there's a scene now. Again, if anyone is in the comments, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a scene I think where Rabute landed on a planet that was being taken by what I think was one of his brothers, and he knew that it was futile for him to even try to fight. So instead, he literally just got out his iPad stylus and just started writing notes, notes upon notes upon notes upon notes. Where they were coming in, how many people were in each ship, how many ships were coming in, what they were attacking first, what their fuel supplies were like, what bullets they were using, what guns they were using, their tactics, everything. He was writing everything down, and he was like, "Cool," and then left. He is the master
Wow.
of planning. You know what?
Okay.
He's kind of known as, he was a bit of a running joke. The Ultramarines were a bit of a running joke because they were seen as like the boring ones. Like, it's Warhammer, it's fighting. So you're like, well, yeah, I want it's just like every kid, like my nephews are like,
Right.
who's the strongest one? I'm like, well, Rabute is not going to be that guy. But I've got such an appreciation for him. I've been listening to a lot of the books, and Rabute's fast becoming one of my favorite Primarchs.
Okay. So it sounds like he's the one who probably best keeps that 10,000 foot view. Like he's like, yeah. Okay.
He's macro rather than micro.
Got it.
Like,
Okay.
he is out there, he is looking at everything as it's all falling into
And
piece
I can only assume he's loyal to a fault.
to a fault. But he's also active in the current. So he was one of the first loyal Primarchs, first of two loyal Primarchs to come back, and his return was like a turning point for the Imperium because he's called the Avenging Sun. I'm actually listening to that book at the moment. Very, very cool book.
Nice.
But yeah, he is loyal. He is kind of the, yeah. If you wanted anyone to come back first, it makes sense for it to be him.
Okay.
Next up, you have got the 14th Legion, and that is Mortarion. Okay. Now, Mortarion's Legion are the Death Guard. Mortarion's whole thing is it's endurance. He can take hit after hit after hit. He's kind of like Rocky. You hit him and you hit him and you hit him, and you're like, okay, cool, cool, cool. And he just gets back up again. You're like, oh my word, he's just relentless. He is extremely bitter, again, kind of like Perturabo. And his whole vibe is like decay, death. He actually fell to the god Nurgle, which worked quite well for him because Nurgle's all about
Okay.
death and rebirth and death and rebirth. And he is a traitor. He
Of
is
course.
not a big fan of the Emperor. Next up, you have the 15th Primarch, and that is Magnus the Red, also known as the Cyclops. His legion are the Thousand Suns. Okay. He is, so we talked about Psychers in the last episode. Psychers are basically wizards in the 40k universe. Magnus is one of the most powerful Psychers aside from the Emperor. Okay, now as I said, the Emperor kind of had ideas for what his Primarchs were going to do. They believe that the intention with Magnus was to sit on the Golden Throne, which is what the Emperor is currently sitting on, which is like
Okay.
that
The
beacon,
beacon.
yeah, the kind of navigation, the lighthouse within the warp. And Magnus was supposedly supposed to sit in there. Now, once you get into the Warhammer 40k, you'll maybe see a meme of Magnus did nothing wrong, or Magnus is innocent, or his downfall. Now, he loved the Emperor. In fact, he was one of the only Primarchs that, upon birth and kind of coming out of his tube, knew exactly who he was, knew exactly what he was created for, because he was apparently communicating with the Emperor whilst he was in the pod. So they were having a psychic conversation. They're basically throwing ball at the back, but psychically, like
Yeah.
playing catch with each other. He loved the Emperor. He was actually, yeah, his fall was a bit tragic. And again, we can go into that in more detail. It's so hard for me to not go into so much detail here. I'm holding back so hard. But his is all about knowledge. But again, knowledge a lot of the time comes with a healthy sprinkle of arrogance because I'm
Yeah.
the smartest person in the room and I fucking know it. That's kind of Magnus's deal.
Okay.
Yeah, tragic. It's a bit of a tragic fall though, and again, very very cool story to that one. Again, traitor, but somewhat reluctant.
Complicated.
Yeah, yeah. Next up, you got the 16th. Now you might recognize this guy, Horus Lupercal.
Yep.
Yep. So his legion were the Lunar Wolves, or the Sons of Horus. They actually got changed to the Sons of Horus after. Now, we talked about Sanguinius being everybody's favorite. Arguably, Horus was like loved by all of them. Like he was the most charismatic, he was friendly, his fall from, being loyal to being the ultimate traitor is kind of heartbreaking. It's kind of akin to Darth Vader, but I'd say more so. You saw the human he was, or the human. None of them are human, but they are human-esque in shape. His fall was tragic. So yeah, he is obviously a traitor.
Yep.
Moving on to what are we at now? Is this
17.
the 17? So Vulcan is. Oh, sorry. Lorgar. Lorgar. Lorgar, his legion were the word bearers. Okay, now Lorgar, out of all the Primarchs, was probably the weakest physically. His whole thing was not about physical strength at all. His thing was faith and religion. Now, as I said, the plan with the Primarchs was to go out to worlds and conquer them. His legion
Got it.
were converting people by their way of religion, of like, we're going to worship this god emperor. Now, the emperor has explicitly said, I am not a god. Stop it, Lorgar. Like, stop it. Like, but Lorgar was like, yeah. Again, fingers behind his back, like, yeah, I'll stop worshiping you. Yeah, you're not a god. And he did not stop. And it kind of caused some issues. Now, again, Lorgar, he is a traitor as well because he got chastised by the emperor. In fact, the emperor is known as, like, again, the issue with the 40k universe is that there's different writers. Okay, different writers have different takes on the emperor, so it's always kind of
Right.
mixed bag. The emperor can be extremely cruel to the point where he went to this incredible world that Lorgar had taken over. It was a paradise. Like, it was just everything was perfect, but it was captured and claimed through the idea of like religion and faith to the god emperor. The emperor was like, all right, I told him that he shouldn't do this. Gilliman, come with me, we're going to teach him a lesson. And he landed on this planet and told Lorgar to bend the knee, and basically made him out to be a bit of a bitch. And he used Gilliman and the Ultramarines to completely raze the city, whilst Lorgar and all of his word bearers had to stand and watch. So imagine landing on a planet and creating this, taking this planet from savagery to then like a jewel in the Imperium, only to be told, yeah, great job, but no, you didn't do it the right way. Erase it all. So again,
Damn.
some people gentle prodding, some people needed a good shove. Lorgar didn't take much for him to be like,
Right.
yeah, I don't really like this guy, the Emperor,
Screwed me
so
over. Yeah.
he is obviously a traitor. 18. This is
18.
Vulcan.
Vulcan. Okay.
Vulcan is the Primarch of the Salamanders. Their legion is the Salamanders, the green armor. Vulcan is known as, and the salamanders as a whole are known as some of the most empathetic of space marines. In fact, some of the very few space marines that are allowed to return back to their families after turning into being transformed into space marines. And his whole thing is, we are fighting for humanity. We need to always remember who we are. A lot of space marines see humans as dumb idiots who have no idea what's going on and just, again, like petulant children. So a lot of the space marines, even the good one, the loyal ones,
Yeah.
they see themselves as more valuable as than the average human. But
They're just
Vulcans,
tolerant of humans,
they're
basically.
just like, oh, you idiots, like a bunch of dumb idiots, really. Vulcan has never forgotten the fact that they were created to serve humanity. In fact, salamanders will go out of their way to preserve human life at even at huge costs to their own legion. Again, his whole thing is humanity, compassion, and fire. You do not want to get on the wrong side of Vulcan. Vulcan is one of the physically biggest Primarchs, like just a specimen of a human. Again, if you think how big the Primarchs are, typically speaking,
Right.
kind of the 10 to 11 foot range ish. And again, it's always different.
Damn.
Yeah, Vulcan is gigantic. In fact, the book I was listening to, one of the guys who was in a med bay, he woke up and Rabute was sitting in his room with him, and he said that it was like sitting in a room with a tank. He had that much presence and he also nearly shit himself when he was in the presence of Rabute. He said he's felt his bowels squeeze because it's to be in the presence of a Primarch is just
Overwhelming.
completely over. Even to Space Marines who are like conditioned, they're still like one of the Space Marines in the book I was listening to. He said that Rabute looked at him eye to eye, and he said like he couldn't deal with it. Like he just about was able to hold eye contact for like a half second with him. It's just so intense. They're just amazing how they describe them. So
That's
yeah,
so cool.
Vulcan, extremely loyal. Some really cool stories about him with Conrad Kurz as well. But again, we'll set that to the side for now. So Vulcan, loyal. 19. Corvus Corax. Okay. His legion are the Raven Guard. Okay, so him, and
Really? With that name?
Corvus Corax. I know it's a bit of a yeah, the Raven
Right
Guard.
on the
So
nose.
Conrad Kurz and him kind of similar-ish stealth kind of. His whole thing is like, yeah, basically stealth. He will go into a planet and his Marines they're in, they're out. Again, very very precise.
So like the
Um,
assassin faction of the. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. They're not like frontline infantry type of guys. They'd rather do like subterfuge. They would rather, destroy enemies' munitions, supplies, and just cripple them from within. So inevitably they all crumble.
Okay.
He is loyal. He is one of the loyal Primarchs as well.
Nice.
Now the last one. This is an odd one. Alfarius and Omegon. You kind of get the Alpha and the Omega. Their legion is the Alpha Legion. Now, these
Wait.
guys are
Number 20 is
admittedly,
two guys.
yeah, so they were split. Their souls were split to twins. So there's two of them. And
Alfarius and what is it?
Omegon, Omegon. So again, the
Okay.
Alpha and the Omega.
Got it.
Everything we know about these guys could be a lie. Their whole thing is deception, misdirection, espionage. Tell you one thing, and you'd be like, "Cool, yeah, I believe him," and then they'll tell you another thing. Their status in terms of whether they're traitors or loyal, nobody knows. Nobody like it's completely dependent on the situation. So in the book I listened to, The End and the Death, one of the Alpha Legion Space Marines is following the kind of good guys, but you never know whether he's on their team, on their side, whether they're going to kill them all or save them. You just cannot trust them. So every piece of information we have about them could be true, could be complete figment of our
Right.
imagination. They're just so difficult to pin down.
So
No, fun fact.
technically,
Mhm.
but real quick, so technically there's 21 Primarchs. It's just the 20th one, his soul was split into twins.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
fun fact about Alpharius and Omegon, they are the smallest of the Primarchs,
Makes sense.
but their Marines are bigger than
Then
all
the
of them.
others.
Now, the reason for that, it means that they can hide within their own legion, because most of the Primarchs stand like a good like torso
Right.
head above their Marines. They can blend in. So you think like there's a like the I am Spartacus, I am Spartacus, I am Spartacus. It's I am Alpharius. You might think, oh, I've got Alpharius here. Could just be a normal Marine.
Okay. Got
So
it.
there is no way to pin them down. Now, they're thought one of them could potentially be dead at the hands of Rogel Dorn, actually. But we don't know whether that was actually him or not. Now, it's strongly suggested it was him because he kind of blew up in this like fancy light and stuff because he's kind of made out of warp magic and all that stuff, and that was part of their DNA. But we don't know.
Okay.
Again, we really don't have an idea about what's going on.
Got it. Okay.
So that is the 21/18
Okay.
Primarchs/19 Primarchs. Now, what I would like to know from you is which would you like to look at in more detail in the future, loyal or traitor? So again, it's halfway. It's like 9 or loyal, and we could break it up even more than that if you want. But we're
Yeah,
just
I'm
like, let's start
thinking.
with what do you think?
I almost kind of want to go by how they were found,
Okay, yeah,
because that way, as you're telling me to,
chronological.
I assume as they were found, certain events will happen that may sway loyalty or disloyalty. So I figure if maybe we can do it sequentially, then I can, yeah.
Even there's unsureness about that as well
Okay. I
because
love
of
all of this, man. This is amazing. Like the redacted ones, I'm fascinated by those two. Like I can only
same.
imagine all the theory that the fan community has come up with.
Oh yeah, I mean, as I said, the one thing that I learned quite recently is the fact that the Ultramarines suddenly became the biggest legion after those two
Right.
disappeared. You're like, tell us something, Rabute, but he can't. He never will,
Yeah.
which is cool. Okay, so are there any that like stood out to you just out of curiosity? Like, and I know a little bit more about some of them rather than others, but again, I'm trying to hold back as much. There's so many more.
So one that I would definitely want to like get more like sounds awesome, like the salamanders and Vulcan, like those sound like really cool.
Hmm.
The Corvus one, like the assassin vibe, is always pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, with the traders, I'm very excited to like learn more about him. But I remember you had told me a little bit about Angrom, and that one just sounds like the most intense, wild story. I definitely am pretty. It reminded me a little bit of I don't know if you've read or seen what is it? Is it Guts? Is the main character? I forget the Berserk. Have you seen Berserk
No, I've
ever?
heard of it. I've heard of it, but I've
Okay.
not seen it now.
It almost like when the little bit you've told me about Angram, I'm like, man, it sounds like he's just going through like the same like just shit luck no matter what happens over and over and over. Except Angram goes full evil, but yeah,
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 yeah, and the what I learned again quite recently. And by the way, if you're listening to this, I do not like. There's people out there who know so much more about the lore of this. I've just picked up enough that I can kind of give Aldo the kind of cliff notes here. So if you're here, appreciate it. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But yeah, Angron apparently was one of the most empathetic of the Primarchs. Like
Ooh,
he felt people's pain, and now
damn,
the fact
okay,
that
that's
he
pretty wild.
now the fact that he is only at peace when he feel. Oh, another fun fact: Angron actually felt peace and no pain when he thought about Sanguinius.
I think you had told me that. That's crazy.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
got a moment
just
of
the
like,
thought of
wow.
that brother.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, those two have a bit of a slap fest at one point as well in the horse
Okay.
heresy. which, yeah, there's that meme of Randy Marsh, that I didn't hear no bell.
Yeah.
That's Sanguinius right there. Like at the Horse Heresy, Sanguinius goes through the ringer. Like he fights Angron in his demon form. He fights Kabanda, who is another similar being to Angron, like one of the top bloodthirsters. So imagine like big winged monster, full of rage. One of Khorne's like favorite demons. He fights him. He also destroys a Warlord Titan. So Warlord Titan is imagine like the Burj Khalifa, but if it was like that size, but a war machine.
That's
He
wild.
fought that. Then he then went up and fought Horus. And there's that image of Randy Marsh. I'll send you it over. It's I didn't hear no bell. It's like Sanguinius.
Just all messed up, yeah.
So at the end of that, the end of the death, Sanguinius is in so much pain. Now Primarchs heal at an obscene rate, but he is so badly damaged from his fights that he is like holding together the pain that he's holding, and he's trying to hide it from his other brothers at the end of the Horse Heresy because he is just like. But I think it's Rogel is like, he is not good. Like he is in so much pain right now, and he's trying to hide it because he's like the golden beacon of humanity. He's the angel. So
Right.
So, do you feel like you've got a better understanding of the Primarchs now?
Oh my God, yeah, so much better. I mean, like I told you, I think I'd maybe like legitimately heard of 3 or 4 of these, and even of those, like I maybe knew a little bit of information about too. So like, there's so much more context now, and that's why I said I think that the rather than just like doing like good guys or bad guys or something, I think it's a little more interesting if we go through it as they were found. Yeah.
Perfect.
'Cause
Okay, and
yeah.
just as a quick one, so I'm going to tell you the ones that are currently active in the 40k universe.
That was the last question I wanted to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go from the top. Lionel Johnson has returned.
Okay.
Him, and Rabute have yet to reunite. Sorry. So as at the current moment, they have not met each other. But that's one of the things that everybody, including myself, cannot wait because they have a bit of a tumultuous relationship. Gilliman actually broke the lion's sword over his leg in a rage once at him because the lion pretty ruthless in his way of trying to cull evil. He's like, if I have to destroy an entire planet to kill the bad guys, one bad guy, I will do it, even if it's not my planet. And Rabute's like, no you don't, get the fuck out, and snapped his sword over his thigh. So they didn't really
Okay.
depart on the best terms. Fulgrim, so number 3, he is back. He's the most recent Primarch to return. Again, stunning models. No. Yeah, Sanguinius and Ferris Manus ain't coming back anytime soon. Angron is available. Rabute Gilliman is available. I recently painted him up. Mortarion is available. Again, stunning model. Looks like a big moth with a big scythe. Incredible.
That's Nervo's guy.
Yes. Magnus the Red is also back as well. So you've got currently 4 Trader Primarchs in the galaxy just doing their thing, and only 2 Loyalist. So it's stacked.
And these are that we know of, right? So like obviously like the other traders that betrayed are somewhere out there. We just may not know what they're up to.
Yeah, yeah. We know where some of them are. Most of them are in the warp. Most of them fled into the warp after Horse Heresy.
Oh, okay. So they're hiding. Okay.
And again, some of the loyalist Primarchs are just considered missing. But again, most likely out hunting the traders. Or
Okay.
just disappeared. So
Yeah.
that's what I love about the setting. The fact that now the setting, it used to be a kind of it used to be a setting more than a story. So everything was kind of fixed. Like the lore didn't develop, but now they're starting to develop things. That's why these Primarchs are starting to come out because the actual story is progressing forward, which
Yeah.
yeah, I really enjoy.
No, I
But
mean I've been enjoying the hell out of it, so I'm glad
good.
you are well versed in it.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm having to polish up a little bit. That's fun. Like I enjoy this stuff.
Yeah.
So look,
Awesome,
so
man. Thank you.
If you made it to the end of the video, firstly, Aldo, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. If you made it to the end of the video, give it a like, drop your comment about what your favorite Primarch is. Aldo, if you can, let people in the comment know who your favorite is so far just from this. And that might change because mine has kind of moved around. Or I tell you what, your top 3. That's a good way of doing it.
Top
Just
3.
Picking your favorites it's like your favorite food. And you're like, well, it depends what mood I'm in. Let me know what your favorite 3 Primarchs are in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe, hit the like, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.